Do you have anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, well, I thought originally I was just getting brought in for a single question, so I had that prepared, but it was really interesting to have a chat with both of you. So my question really is why religion always, not always, but many times are very central in the message of traditional gender roles and so forth. In my perspective, not being very much of a godly or religious person, I find the message compelling, very much compelling, with no need for religion and pretty much just evolutionary psychology and so forth. Why is religion necessary?
Security boss, you want to go?
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't say it's religion. I would just say I'm a follower of Christ, and it's basically the principles of God. And a lot of different religions have principles that I think will also work. But I grew up in this, so that's why it's for me. But as far as the Christian or Christianity religion, I'm a little skeptical sometimes myself of that. I don't. I have to make sure I make good judgments on my own when that comes coming to that. So,
and could I follow up really quickly? Do you think it's possible to do it this way atheistically?
Say that last word again.
Is it possible to do this by being like an atheist or agnostic, not believing in any higher power of any sort?
Not believing in any higher power? No, I don't. Because it has to be something outside of yourself. Because if you're believing in yourself and your own will, then that's not going to allow you to see the other person.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. My point was going to be that when I serve my husband and my husband serves me, and in our relationship, we look at it like this. It's a triangle. I'm here, he's here, and God's here. So I'm not doing things for my husband because it's my husband. Yes, I like doing it, but I'm serving God ultimately because in service to my husband, if that makes sense. So when you can look to a higher power, it makes your connection and your relationship not about you. And like Security Boss was saying, if it's about you, you'll get caught up in your feelings. You'll get caught up in your emotions. You'll get caught up in your flesh. And the flesh sometimes will do what it wants. Yeah. And it requires, and I'm not going to say that it cannot be done. I'm sure there's anomalies like yourself that it can be done. But for the most part, it becomes more challenging when you rely on yourself and you're acting as God as well, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's really interesting. If I can ask,
sure.
This is a really new perspective to me. I don't really come across it even with people who pretty much agrees with my point of view on traditional gender roles. But it doesn't sort of, without the godly stuff about it, doesn't the challenge become greater, but also the win greater if you succeed?
If you do believe in a higher power?
No, if you don't believe in a higher power,
okay.
With, like you said, using it to serve sort of God when serving your husband, as you said, and also resisting urges and the flesh and so forth. Doesn't it become a greater achievement if you surpass the greater challenge doing this without the godly stuff involved with it?
So let me say this. It all goes back to your beliefs. And then I think Rebecca said earlier on, nothing's by chance. For me, all things are spiritual. Even if you don't believe, you're still dwelling in a place where spiritual is in control. But I want to go back a little bit with her. When we get married and we make vows, our vows are a covenant. The covenant is a promise that we've made to the higher being to do something. That's not, we're doing something for the husband. The commitment is to the husband. The covenant and the promise goes to the higher power.
Mhm.
When you operate without it, you're operating with a contract. And lots of times contracts are definitely fulfilled and they're successful, but people tend to want to break contracts or amend them. And that's what keeps us, that's the difference. A covenant is straight up promise to do something. And I'm not going to disappoint. This is the comments. There's just no going back on it. Contracts, we can amend, we can add to, we can break, and that's the difference. You know, the commitment is to the person. I'm committed to my husband, but the covenant is to the higher power.
I agree 100% with what Security Boss just said.
But if you're successful with your contract, then you did good.
Exactly.
You know, that just means you all have agreements that you both agreed and you good communicators. I definitely think it could work, but I still think the higher power is in control, whether you've given him reverence for it or not. So, you know,
yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just think having the option to go out makes the achievement of staying in higher, isn't it? Well, having a sort of compelled that you should stay in, and this is your sort of semi-religious duty, if you can say that way. Doesn't this weaken the achievement of staying in and staying together?
Well, let me say this. Again, it goes to your beliefs, but we believe that within that covenant, there are a lot of blessings. There are a lot of things that you receive that are good for you. As long as you stay within that covenant, you are good per se. You're just good. You're going to be okay because you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. You're doing exactly what you were designed to do. The whole circle is complete. The reason why men are here, the reason why a woman is here, the reason why they're together is complete if you're operating within that covenant. So it's kind of purposeful. It completes it. You make each other better people. Now, also remember, well, again, it goes back to your beliefs. At the beginning, there was a man in the rib of the woman, and then now we're becoming one again. So now we're in completion and we're just following out or demonstrating the word as it was written. So again, though, that's just the belief, and there's power in that belief. But again, those contracts you're talking about or those agreements, I think can also work. But you have to ask, I mean, I would need to talk to someone that had certain agreements. That's why I ask you, have you had any issues, or has there been anything that really is making you ponder on being in this relationship? Because you said everything is good right now. So I really had nothing to go on, but I would love to hear some of your struggles if there are any. But if you don't have any, then I'm saying your agreement is definitely working.